Hey, everybody. It's almost human live. Look, we got Martin Popoff here today.
How you doing,
And
guys?
What's up?
I'm just trying to find it live on my other computer here quickly so I can follow along with the comments. So,
yeah,
me.
Tony is about to join us. And yeah, it's another Thursday. And as Martin sets up there, how you doing, Ralphus?
Good.
Cool. And how
Psyched
about,
to talk about Martin's new book.
and how about you, Wayne? How you feel this week opposed to last week?
I'm great. I almost feel normal again.
Awesome.
Yeah. Getting back to
All
normal.
right, wicked. I found everything. Very cool.
Right on.
Hey, let's see if I can get some video going.
Yeah, what's up there, Tony Dio?
What's up? Having connection issues.
Hi.
Right on.
Finally.
We're all here to talk about Iron Maiden. Martin, I understand you got a new Maiden book because I purchased this one.
Yep. That's the updated version of through Quarto books of the panel books I've been doing, right? So that's a Q&A with people, two, three speakers on every single studio album. But what's coming on my birthday, April 28th, so about 3 weeks from now, is the biggest book I've ever done.
Wow.
Hallowed by Their Name, the unofficial Iron Maiden Bible. It's 400 pictures and lots and lots and lots of words. It's taking the trio of books that I had self-published years ago and let out of print, got it updated to the latest chapter. I even got a whole chapter on Bruce's new album. And then also they made this edition that comes in this cardboard box, which is really cool. Hang on, let's see. Wrestle this thing open. So I think these are all gone, but this is called the Beast Edition. And it is like this. So it's
Wow.
foil and comes in a slip case, and it's got metal corners. But other than that, red around the edges. And other than that, though, it's the same book as the $59.95 version. So there you
Wow,
go. 666 pages. Just the story of the band, basically, but chapters for every Bruce album and British Lion and all that stuff, too. So
Very cool.
there you go.
How does the band react? Because this isn't an official band release thing. It's from you. How does the band react to things like this?
Generally, I don't hear much from them. On this one, though, the publisher was in contact with them, and they wanted a few changes on the cover, and they wanted to look at it, and they basically said, "Yeah, it's fine, cool, go with it." But yeah, they wanted. I think we even changed the title, and we added the word unofficial.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling that really only bothered them because I think they're at the same time putting out a redone version of their old book. Plus, the documentary's coming. I didn't know that was coming as well, right? So,
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
What documentary on what? On Iron Maiden?
yeah, I think there's a full blown documentary coming right around the time this thing comes out, and probably their other book as well. So, yeah.
Wow. Martin, is
So
that
you
the
were
one that
talking-
I was going to ask, is that the one that I had, I sent you some photos for? I think Bruce Dickinson.
I believe there is probably
Yeah.
a picture or two in here. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
That's awesome.
Because you were filling what were they of? It was a really odd situation, right?
It was some photos of some accident at birth promo items and some pictures from that tour.
Paul,
And I think I had a
Bruce?
couple. And I had
think you had some
interviewed
Paul.
Bruce and Adrian. And I had interviewed Bruce and Adrian. I think I sent you some pictures I took at that interview and stuff too.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a challenge. I forget all that's in there because it just goes on and on. It's such a huge book, right? So there's a lot of contributions from all over the place in that thing.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Going way back, Martin. Did you discover them like I did in 1980?
Yep. I never had a Soundhouse tapes, but I bought the debut as an import. And I probably had Metal from Others even before that. But maybe no singles. But yeah, I remember looking at that front cover, looking at the back, all the smoke and everything. We would go down to Spokane, Washington, and at the same time, we'd be picking up the latest Sounds magazine, right? That had all the new wave of British heavy metal stuff in it. And maybe a Gillan single or a Tigers single or the Tigers album or the Quartz album. All those 1980 things happening all at the same time. Pay our $8.99 for the import vinyl, you know.
What a ripoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
I wasn't really aware of all that's going, because I live in South Florida. We don't have that type of publication that you got. So Iron Maiden I walked into a store and I saw that album cover. Never heard of this band before. And when I turned it around, they looked like Judas Priest. So I'm like, I'm not leaving the store without this, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
you know, Sounds Magazine's from the UK. It's just that this was like a head shop, cool record store. They had two of them in Spokane, Washington, Magic Mushrooms and Strawberry Jams, right? And yeah, they all had Sounds and Melody Maker and all that stuff and all the latest imports and the singles with patches and everything. So yeah, and it's funny, like all the imports, they weren't sealed, right? Imports were not sealed, which is odd, right? They're all open in the sleeves, but yeah, got that as an import, and then I think my Killers was a Canadian copy after that.
Right on. So you became a fan day one.
Yeah. Although, you know, it's funny. I've talked lately a couple times about you know how for a certain brief moment, sometimes you know, the underdog band is bigger than the other band, and I often talk about how you know, Megadeth around Rust in Peace was just a little bit cooler than Metallica just for a brief moment, and probably as successful or maybe even more successful. But the same thing with Iron Maiden. Like as kids, you know, I would have been 17 at the time. I remember thinking, you know, we all thought Angel Witch might be the better band right now for a few brief months, and then Angel Witch completely tanks, and they don't come back with another album for like 4 years or whatever. Different lineup, worse sound, and then Iron Maiden's just like record every single year, taking off, boom, 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 and just into the stratosphere. So, but yeah, for that one moment, you know, debut versus debut, I think the Angel Witch album's actually slightly better.
It is an amazing album. I love that Angel Witch album. Yeah. Going back to the new wave of British heavy metal for a second, a band I really like, what everybody here thinks, is a band called Holocaust. You guys know that first
song? Oh yeah,
yeah. The Nightcomers.
That's it. That album.
Yeah, good album, man. Death or Glory, man. What a riff.
Oh, yeah. Awesome album.
They're almost like the like the boy band of the new wave British heavy metal. I think they were all like young guys, and they struck me as the bedheaded Dennis the Menaces of the new wave British heavy metal. It was pretty punky and raw and just headbanging, right? And so they had that one album, and then they had the next album had, you know, like it was live, but it had you know, new songs on it, right? Live Curry and Hot Wine or something like that. Weird title, and yeah, Gatefold on the second one.
Very cool album cover too, with the looks like it's the 5 Riders of the Apocalypse.
Yeah, right.
Instead of the 4.
And they're from Scotland. Is it Edinburgh or Glasgow? I think they're from one of those, I think.
I got to see them in Asbury Park at a Metal Meltdown Fest in Asbury Park. It was like a shitload of bands. They had a whole bunch of the new wave British heavy metal bands played.
Wow. What year would that have been?
Yeah.
It was the late 90s, because it was they did it like 4 years in a row there. Wow. So it was probably like between some 97, 99 or something.
Yeah. They had a weird history, a future like Demon. Like Demon started this poppy occult sort of band, and then they went proggy. Holocaust they were that, and then they were Holograms, Steal the Stars, which was kind of poppy and proggy, and then they went back to kind of almost like a hardcore sound. Would you say, Tony? Like the later albums were really weird, and then later they sounded more like an original new wave of British heavy metal band again, right?
Yeah, that Asbury Park shows that you were mentioning, Count, was I know the year I went, I think it was 2000, and Savage played that one, and they were a new wave of British metal band. They played, and that was like they were digging these bands out of the obscure, you know, finding them and stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
But I watched
Diamond Head played one of them too.
I watched your Contrarians the other day, Martin, on the best new wave of British metal albums, where you had like all Iron Maiden and all Def Leppard, pretty much. But you
Yeah.
put this one up more,
Yeah.
Blood and Thunder.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
this. I've got it on vinyl, but this is the Rock Candy version where they changed the cover and just put that. It almost looks like the first album.
Oh
But
yeah.
man, if you guys have never heard the second More album, check it out. It is really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole
first-
point of that exercise was to show, like, if you're the complete opposite of a music snob, like put your ego completely aside, you could make a top 10 new wave of British heavy metal list with 5 Iron Maiden albums and 3 Def Leppard albums, and you'd end up with 8 cracking albums out of those, right? So you don't even have to spread the love around, sort of thing, right? So that was funny, and we've got one going up where it's my true list. But you know, there's nothing wrong with that list at all. You know, two bands taking up 8 slots.
Yeah, that like the Iron Maiden connection to More too. For those of you that don't know, is the first album had Paul Marrow Day was the lead singer, and he was in Iron Maiden before Diano.
And he went on to Wildfire, and they made a couple of pretty neat albums.
That
too.
first Wildfire album, Brute Force and Ignorance, I love that album.
Yeah, and then Summer Lightning. Yeah, the problem, I mean, it's good songs, but the problem with both of them is the production wasn't very good on them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so much of that stuff, you know. And the funny thing about those new wave of British metal bands too is a lot of them they started off really heavy and rough sounding, and then when Pyromania came out, they all wanted to start getting slick. So all of them started kind of like changing their style and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Well, actually, we've got 2 of those wonky new wave of British heavy metal episodes coming up. Well, one of them is just my true list, but the other one is exactly on that point that you just mentioned. Sort of. It's more on the production point. I made a top. I made a. How did I phrase that? Oh yeah, we did. It's an episode called the only 13 good new wave of British heavy metal albums, right? And so I went through all the albums and picked out the only ones that have this certain level of professionalism to them. And there's just not that many of them, right? Because I always talk of that genre being drunk priest, right? That's what I call it, drunk priest, right? So it's like all those albums sound like they're you know, recorded on 3 beers kind of thing, right? Be it the producer or the band or whatever, the recording studio. But yeah, so that'll be a funny one. It's like I literally called it the only 13 good new wave British heavy metal albums.
Yeah, I like the comedy factor of that April Fool's when you did when Richie Blackmore was hilarious.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So everybody else here is younger. Let's see your timeline. Let's start with Ralphus. When did you discover Iron Maiden?
I was on the line to get on the school bus, and a kid that was a couple of grades older than me was wearing a Killer shirt, and I just couldn't stop staring at it. I was a monster kid. I love horror movies. I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I was just like, "What is this?" And I was trying to read it, and to me, the A looked like an X, and I thought it said Iron Mexidin. And I was like, he looked at me staring at his shirt, and he's like, "You like them?" I was like, "What? That's Iron Mexidin?" He's like, "It's Iron Maiden." And I looked like an idiot saying that, and then just like cowered away. And then I had a friend he had an older brother, and I guess his parents found the albums and didn't like them being in the house, and he just gave them to me, or I traded something for him. But I ended up getting the first album, Killers, and Maiden Japan all on the same day.
Oh,
And that started, and I got all of them on vinyl, and I still got them. I got them all signed by Paul Diano years later. But yeah, that was my start. And then I joined Columbia House like the following year, and got everything else like that was out at the time.
so since you came into Maiden during the Diano years, with timeline, did that affect you? Do you think that's the Maiden you prefer other than the Dickinson stuff?
No, because I got Number of the Beast like 6 months later. You know, like that was the next thing coming out, and I got that. So it wasn't like I was so used to the one way. You know, it wasn't like years later then I got, you know, so it didn't really affect it at all for me.
How about you, Wayne?
Somewhere in Time was my first one. So around 88. No, that came out in 86, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But I didn't hear it until like 88. But yeah, that was my first one. But I didn't really, I mean, I liked it. My friend let me borrow the cassette and I copied it or whatever and kind of just like listened to it a few times and it just kind of like disappeared. But then not until Be Quick or Be Dead came out, then I really got into Iron Maiden. I love that song so much. I love that video on Headbangers Ball all the time they played it. And then I really got into Maiden. And then I would go back and buy the whole rest of the catalog and been a fan ever since.
Did you end up loving the album Fear of the Dark?
Yeah, I did. I did. I like that album a lot. There's nothing wrong with that album.
Okay.
Russ laughing at you.
It's got some good songs, got some bad songs, but it's good. I do like it.
Sometimes the elitist in me just
Whatever.
Tony, when did you discover Maiden?
Really started getting into metal and stuff around, I guess, mid 82 or something, around that time. I don't remember anybody coming to school with anything Iron Maiden or any Iron Maiden t-shirts before that, but I started hanging out, going to the record store more and looking at records and flipping through the albums and looking at posters. And I just remember seeing Number the Beast, seeing the poster, like a black light poster of it hanging in the store. And I don't know, maybe a year or so later, just a friend at school brought Number the Beast on cassette to school, and I just borrowed it and I went home and made a dub of it, and it just kind of went from there.
Here's a good thing in the chat. Mean Metal Mike, X Factor is his most listened to Maiden album.
You know, recently I've been getting into that album more because I never really liked it.
I love it.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as love it, but I like it way more than I used to. And I saw that tour, and at that time I wasn't into the album. I didn't like it. When I saw the tour, every song they played from that album live was amazing. I thought Blaze was better live. The energy, and it was a small place. They played a small place. But I thought those albums translated great live, better than the album. But I still never revisited the album until like recently, like maybe 4 months ago. And I listened to it like 3 times in these 4 months, the whole thing, because I got that special edition with the bonus tracks. And like one of my favorite songs is a bonus track, Judgment Day. I would put that above almost every song on the X Factor. But yeah, Martin, did you kind of like at any time fall out like other eras you like more than some eras?
Yeah, definitely. I was starting to fall out around Seventh Son, and then definitely was not a big fan of No Prayer or Fear of the Dark. At that point, boy, Pantera's coming on, Metallica's doing great. There's thrash. Not only that, I mean, I remember at that age being so I was out of university now, I had my first job and stuff. I remember being big into Husker Du, Soul Asylum, Firehose, Minutemen, Jane's Addiction, Faith No More. Grunge was around the corner, right? Grunge was super exciting, right? So, getting the Mudhoney first EP, Soundgarden first EP, Nirvana, Bleach, right? So there was a lot of exciting music around, and if you were kind of following Maiden from the beginning, you were realizing they're kind of doing the same album over and over again at that point, and just kind of inferior versions of it, right? So yeah, they just had a lot of competition. It's funny. I was looking up the I might even do a podcast episode on this, but the Stealth Platinum albums, right? So Seventh Son almost surprises me that that's platinum. Savage Amusement, Scorpion surprises me that that's platinum. Kiss got a platinum out of one of those later ones. I think it might even been Crazy Nights, right?
Animalized, yeah.
Okay, maybe they got 2 then. I think they even got a later one. I think Crazy Nights might have, but it's interesting to see, and Turbo, of course, we know that goes platinum, but yeah, it's and we've always talked about how it's Maiden's one of these bands where there's this mystery about why the certifications aren't higher, but boy, the certifications are really good in terms of consistency because they have 5 platinum albums in a row. You know, 2 golds to start, I think 2 golds at the end, and 5 platinums in the middle, including the live album. It's 6 actually. So that's kind of cool. This massive long consistency.
You know, another band that I think only went 1 time platinum, and all their other albums either went gold or didn't go gold, and were an arena act in the 80s, was Triumph.
Interesting.
They would fill, I mean, down here, they'd fill an arena, and their albums, they got lucky that got gold. I think Allied Forces may be the only platinum album they released. I could be wrong, but they, you know, they Maiden sold more, but yeah, you don't really have to sell a crazy amount of albums in the 80s to headline arenas, you know, and fill arenas, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. But you know, just the same way KK used to complain about how they never had that big smash album, right? But they've had double platinum and stuff. But Scorpions had double platinum for Crazy World, and double and triple platinum for Love at First Sting. Blackout actually is just at platinum still, but it's quite bizarre to me. And I think there's something weird about having not gone back, or I don't know why they're not going back. Maybe it's just like lower on Rod's list of things to do. But I just feel like they got to have a couple of double platinums in there by now, surely.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you started discovering all these bands like Jane's Addiction and stuff, were you kind of like flatline on Maiden, or did they ever get you back? Like, oh, now they're releasing something that I find interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting when they came back, and with Brave New World, I remember seeing them on that tour at Massey Hall in Toronto. So they came back, and so before the album came out, I guess that was right, because Tony, right? They didn't they tour for a bunch of months even before the album came out?
Did the Ed Hunter tour, the video game that they did?
That's
so
what
they played a you know, our super nice, elegant, you know, 2,200 seater theater, and right at that same time, Motley Crue, I think around that same time, Motley Crue came back with Vince, and they played Massey Hall as well, which was really cool. So we were up close for that. So yeah, I was excited and I'm well back on board for that. But I think I've noticed that that of the later albums, people seem to be gathering around and agreeing on A Matter of Life and Death as the best one out of those. And people complain about most of the other ones. You know, Maiden fans do a lot of complaining about those later albums, but I think most it just seems that most of the better known songs and better regarded songs are on Matter of Life or Death.
I've met some younger fans in recent years who really cherish those later records, like A Matter of Life and Death, and you know, like what's it,
Book of Souls,
Book of Souls and stuff. They love all
Final
that
Frontier.
stuff. They I guess maybe because they came in at that period and discovered Maiden, kind of in their resurgence. But then a lot of them really like Fear of the Dark and No Prayer for the Dying and like X Factor. And it's just really surprising to me, you know, that they like a lot of the later stuff. But of course, they do like the old stuff as well. But it seems like they have a little better appreciation for that stuff than us who were there to experience it from the start, you know, when those albums were new. You know, because I remember like my friend buying No Prayer for the Dying and saying, man, I got the new Maiden album and it's just not good. You know, and you know, I listened to it. I think I liked a couple of songs on it, but it's like, you know,
it's like Martin said, like after a while, they just keep releasing the same album almost, you know.
Each one always had one or two decent songs on it, you know. But I mean,
but I like them
Fear
all.
of the Dark.
The last
Fear of the Dark. It's got, I mean, the title track, Fear of the Dark, to me is one of the best Maiden songs ever. But it's nothing else on that album that I really like. I mean, it's some stuff on there that's okay. But that is such a great song, and it goes over. So I think seeing it live is what made me like it so much, because it goes over so well live.
And the audience.
If you're a kid seeing Iron Maiden live for the first time on that tour, it's going to be special to you because of that. A lot of times, that first album or tour that you catch, you end up being attached to that forever.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true. It's kind of like your first album. Why you like that album so much, because you kind of came in at that period, you know.
Plus, it's a popular sing-along song live.
Yeah.
Fear of the Dark. Yeah. Fear of the Dark is,
I always kind of give them a pass for like finding their sound and sticking to their sound, because I feel where that happened was, I think their sound absolutely got established the moment Nico came into the band.
Mhm.
So that's the first album of the actual Iron Maiden sound that they kind of went on rinse, repeat, lather, throughout the rest. But because I remember absolutely thinking this when Power Slave came out, thinking, I really like this, but it is Peace of Mind Part 2. It just seemed so similar to me. And from that point on, it was like that. But like I say, I give them a pass because there is so much personality in all corners of that band. The lyrics are remarkable and remarkably similar between Steve and Bruce. And you've got the twin lead thing. You've got a drummer with personality. You've got a singer with personality. You've got bass tones and style of playing with personality. So it's almost like, okay, well, they have flown the flag for that original new wave of British heavy metal sound all these years. And it included in that personality is the real kind of like old school production values too, right? They've never become that Saxoner except go to the gym sort of sound, right? So yeah, for that reason, for the amount of personality there is in that band, I give them a pass for sticking with it.
Yeah, and they have a ballerina as a lead guitar player
now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who has that?
Yeah.
When you say personality as well, it makes me think of the band members as well, because everybody knows each one of the band members. Everybody knows everybody's name in the band. If you're a fan of the band, you know everybody in the band.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And how about Ralphus? Is there any point where you went,
Oh yeah, I've kind of mentioned it at other. It's not just Maiden. It was like everything. Is that once I got hooked on Metallica, Merciful Fate, Motorhead, and Slayer, and everything, it's like you could see in my collection where everything kind of like stops at like 1984 as far as like any of the hair metal stuff, Motley Crue and Van Halen and stuff, and then it's just all pretty much underground stuff. But I did go to Somewhere on Time tour, and it was the famous riot in New Jersey, and it was crazy. I was 16 years old, and we came out, and there was cars flipped over in the parking lot, lit on fire. We're walking, just like wow, a bunch of kids, and then all of a sudden these bottles started raining down right next to us, smashing by us. We were like, "What the fuck?" And I told the story. I don't know. I probably didn't tell it here, but I've told it before. But I'm wearing this shirt, Nico McBrain Damage. He did like these little tours before, like to warm up before a big tour, and he would get a bunch of guests with him. And he had Dave Spitz,
yeah,
from your friend there, you're friends with him, and he was in Black Sabbath and stuff.
And they would play here all the time. I didn't realize they toured.
Yeah, this back of this shirt has like 4 or 5 dates on it, but they played this little tiny club, and there was like 50 people there. It was unbelievable seeing Nico 5 feet in front of me playing the drums. He started playing on the wall with the drumsticks and stuff, but afterwards he just hung out and we all got to meet him and stuff. And I went over to Dave Spitz and I said, "Hey, I heard a rumor that it was what your car was flipped over in the parking lot and it was lit on fire." And he was like, "Oh shit." He goes, "I never told Nico that." So he yells across the room to Nico and he tells a story, and everybody just stops and listens to it. And everybody was just dying laughing that he's jamming with him, but he never got around to tell him that his car was flipped over and lit on fire at an Iron Maiden concert. But then right after that, oh, okay.
A real brief. What's funny is that MTV had a news report about that riot. And they said in that report, it was Dan Spitz's son. The car flipped over, not Dave. Maybe they were both together.
Yeah. Or Dan was there that night too. Dan showed up because it was the New York gig. So he showed up, and he was living up here at the time still. And he got up and or I don't know, he was up here for some reason, but he got up and played a couple songs with him. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so after that tour, though, I mean, I still love Maiden. I still love Sabbath and AC/DC and everything like that, but I wasn't like running out and buying all the new shit at the time. So when Seventh Son came out, I didn't really jump on it. I did get it, and it was one of those things I got it, listened to a couple times, and just kind of forgot about it. Didn't care about seeing them no more. I got really immersed into death metal in the late 80s, and that kind of went all the way till around 2000, where I finally started going backwards. But then, like Martin said, that Ed Hunter tour, me and my wife went down to Hammerstein Ballroom in New Jersey. Clutch opened up. And that's when I kind of was back on board. My wife had never gotten to see him, so that was amazing. And somebody fell from the balcony that night and like landed on the soundboard, and they were able to finish the show. But the next night, the show got canceled, and I don't know if the guy died or whatever. I never heard like what the whole story was with that. But then I seen them on the Brave New World tour when they came back, and then I seen them on Book of Souls. But then I skipped them on the last couple of times they came around. I just felt like I've seen them in their prime, and I wouldn't mind catching them one more time. It's a shame Nico's gone, but I feel like with the later albums, I like what they're doing. If you take a song and just listen to one song, I like it. But if I got to sit through the whole album, that's where I get a little bored with it, because they don't have the dynamics of like the fast song and then the slower. So it's a kind of like all this mid-pace thing that they've been doing for years now. And they just need to throw a handful of faster songs to mix it up a little bit in there, but they don't really do that anymore. So, but individually, I think the songs are still great, and I'll still buy everything that they put out.
Yeah, a lot of their songs have long, long intros before it kicks in. And I gotta say, off the last album, and I love this song. It's one of my favorite Maiden songs. It's a long intro and everything from Senjutsu, the song called Death of the Selves. That's an amazing song. It is, you know, a little mellow, moody for a while, and then it reminds me kind of like what they were doing during Rime of the Ancient Mariner, that kind of heaviness. Now that song, Ralph, it gets kind of heavy, but yeah, you got to wait a couple minutes for it to pick up, you know. And I'm sure a lot of people that listen to that song probably give up. But
that's what's cool about reading Martin's book. This one with the album by album is you go through every album and he's got the special guest talking about each song and stuff. And it makes you start thinking, oh yeah, that song was really good, because you're speaking about songs individually, you're not thinking about the whole album.
right.
But I had gotten this last week, and I thought we were going to be talking about this album, so I actually finished reading this morning.
Cool.
But you know, I just tried to rush read it.
So-
But these are great to read the book and then listening to the album as you're reading, because it's like you're hearing about what they're talking about. It makes you think about things that you might not have thought about as you're.
Yeah, and you got
listening
a
to the
dozen
album.
different personalities, and they all bring up different emphases, right? Some people are
Yeah.
all about the music, some are all about the lyrics, and there's negative stuff, there's positive stuff. So it's yeah, it's good to see the cast change as you go through them, right? And the Priest one's exactly the same way. It's just yeah, you know, you get, yeah, if they want me to get like someone semi-famous to be in these books, so I have to try get a few bigger rock stars and stuff. And then but when you do, it's like you don't ask them to do any homework or anything. It's like whatever you want to talk about, you know, you get first dibs on whatever album kind of thing. And then then it's funny, like, and a bunch of rock journalist guys like us, you know, kind of fill in the tough albums, right?
So what's the process of you getting a hold of these people? Do you know them personally, or do you have to go through channels?
Well, it's a lot of channels and a lot of being completely ignored and a lot of getting told no. It takes a lot of, you know, nicely crafted formal letters that I'm sending out to whoever. So, and you got to track them down, and there's ways to do it. And, you know, you just keep track of, you know, I've had the same email address since 1996. So I get all my PR people coming through, and as those PR people come through, as I'm working on the book, and there's someone I think, they might know, you know, to their credit. I mean, I get a lot of rejection, but to the credit of these people, it's like, I don't know. It's one thing, we don't really know, you know, which of our favorite, you know, rock stars know anything about a particular band or not, right? Or a massive enough fan to talk about them, or even feel like that's a skill thing they have, like to be able to talk about an album for 10 or 15, 20 minutes, right? So yeah, it's a lot of work, and just gladly by the end of the process, I get to that plateau where I feel, okay, we've got enough star power in each one of them, because now I've done like 7 of them or so now for Quarto of that type. And then from a UK publisher, I do just trade paperback versions of that, where it's just me and my, you know, contrarians cast and whatnot, right? For those, but yeah, for these ones for Quarto, they want a couple of rock stars in there.
That's what it kind of feels like. It kind of feels like what we do when we just sit around with like a panel talking about a specific album, but then you have like Nina Strauss on it, who played the Iron Maidens, and then Bobby Blitz from Overkill. You could hear the influence that Maiden had on them. So you seem to have the perfect people for them. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and Tony, we should talk about. I mean, this book is still available.
Oh yeah, that the updated version's pretty new still. It just came out like last year. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we could talk about, if you want to talk about the book. I haven't finished it yet, but if you have any questions or want to talk about anything about the book, feel free.
Yeah, I don't have much.
I got
more
something to
say.
ask about that.
Sure, go
I
ahead.
got something about. Well, so I when I got this, I noticed. I know you can't use the Iron Maiden logo because that's part of like the deal when it's unauthorized, I guess. But then I have this book that I got years ago, and I noticed it's the same exact logo
Oh yeah, yeah.
as this. I don't know if it's the same book company
It is.
or something.
It
And
is.
then
Normally they
this
wouldn't do
out.
that, but
I pulled this out because I was.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the same company. That's when they were doing the ones called they would do a book called The Illustrated History, right? And I did one on Rush like that and one on Metallica. And I've written a couple of reviews in there because for those ones they would hire 2 or 3 different rock journalists to write some of the reviews in them, right? And then the rest is the story of the band. So they had that series, right? Then they have, the album by album, which I think I'm the only one doing those. But then they've got all the at 50. I'm doing Bowie at 75, AC/DC at 50, Kiss at 50, Van Halen at 50. I got Guns N' Roses at 40 coming out next month. But a bunch of other people have been doing those. And then they have the other series they like to do is the books on just one band, right? So they've had one come out on Queen Night at the Opera recently. And I did a Who Quadrophenia one and a what did I do? Dark Side of the Moon, right? So yeah, they some of these series, yeah, we've collaborated. This I think was my idea to come up with this thing, but those other ones have been kind of their idea, and it's just that these publishers are always looking for just kind of a fresh new approach to talk about these bands rather than just be just the story of the band straight through.
I had read this one a long time ago, so when I pulled it out, I just figured I'd take a quick look through it, and then I couldn't help but notice because I just finished this one this morning that there is a lot of the same exact pictures in this book as in this book. They're like, it's not completely like the same, but as you go through it, it's like, oh, they used that one and that. So I figured it had to somehow be connected.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to, same thing when we did Kiss at 50. They kind of agonize over like getting Kiss look cool enough, even though they're not really using the logo kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and Martin explained to me that he's not in charge of the pictures. That's the
generally speaking, I mean, it's getting a little more collaborative recently, but with that publisher, they just do such my editor over there, Dennis Pernew, does an excellent job. He's a super music fan himself. And he can write too, but he basically is the curator of all those pictures, and I think they just do a great job because he really doesn't want to he really tries hard not to use pictures that are the same throughout the books, but I guess that happened a little bit in that one. But and also he knows when he's seen a picture way too many times and he doesn't want to use it.
It's good that he knows his stuff too, because I've seen some Kiss books out there that have pictures of tribute bands and they think it's Kiss, but I'm going, wow. That's not. I remember seeing one of Gene. I'm going, Gene never played a Yamaha bass, and I'm looking at him going, that's not Gene, that's Bill from Kiss, the Strutter tribute band. Wow. It's like, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, crazy.
So Wayne,
yeah,
have you because obviously you've heard all the albums,
of course.
You love them all, or is there a period you just didn't like?
I love them all until it got to Book of Souls, and that just did not do anything for me. I can't even listen to it. I maybe listened to it twice and I just can't go back to it and listen to it. There's just nothing on there that I like at all. So that's like the one. It used to be No Prayer for Dying. I used to not like that one, which a lot of people don't like. But I got over that. And Book of Souls, because I used to go like Ralph has said. I went to go see the Ed Hunter tour, and then I saw every tour after that. I even saw the Matter of Life and Death when they did the whole album and everything, which was kind of boring. I was like, that was a little bit too much. And then I saw the Somewhere in Time tour. But then when I got the Book of Souls, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to hear those songs live. There's no point. They're just boring. But then Senjutsu was awesome. That really, blew that one, the Book of Souls away for me. That brought me back.
Right on. How about you, Tony? There any dip period for you?
Yeah. Well, like I said, by the time No Prayer for the Dying came out, it seemed like I was just kind of getting off there, just moving on to other stuff. And like I said, kind of like Ralph, I was getting into heavier stuff at that period. And so yeah, but I remember when X Factor came out, and my friends over at CMC hooked me up with a CD, and I listened to it, and I actually liked X Factor the first time I listened to it, because I thought Blaze sounded a little bit like Messiah Marcolin from Candlemass in a way on some of the songs. I was like, wow, it's pretty cool. I really liked Sign of the Cross. I thought it was a great song. But then when the next one came out, Virtual 11, I thought that was a horrible record. I like some of the songs like The Klansman and Future Real now, but I like the way Bruce does them better than I do the versions on there. But then this later stuff that came, I liked Brave New World. I really liked that when it came out. I saw that tour because I saw them on Power Slave tour and on the Somewhere in Time tour, and then I didn't see them again until Brave New World came out. So I liked the Brave New World album at the time. I haven't revisited it in years, but after that, man, I kept buying them, and I would just, I'd listen to them a little bit, and it might be one or two songs that I liked on it, but the Book of Souls, like Wayne said, I remember getting that, and I got that nice deluxe version in the book,
I got the same one.
bound
Yep.
book. And I was, at the time where I was living, I was driving about 35, 40 minutes to work every day. So I would listen to music, to and from work. And I remember being tired and driving home, listening to that, and almost falling asleep at the wheel and thinking, man, they need to put a warning sticker on this record. Do not operate motor vehicle while listening to this album, because it was so boring to me. And I bought everything, but the last Senjutsu, I heard it and I didn't even go buy it. I just like, I'll probably find it one day cheap somewhere and just add it to the collection, because I am a completist when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, I just, the later stuff, I mean, probably the last record that I actually really liked from them was Somewhere in Time. I mean, not Somewhere in Time, but Brave New World. And before that would have been probably Somewhere in Time.
Yeah, I think it seems to be becoming consensus that either Book of Souls or Senjutsu are the least good of those ones in terms of, like, if we had a vote on it. And then I think people would probably go to Dance of Death next, and Matter of Life and Death, and probably Final Frontier and Brave New World would probably come out on top, right? That would be the top half.
Brave New World's the best one of the newer era stuff. They never topped that out. They never topped that one with the newer era.
Do you guys notice the courses, how a lot of they repeat the same line over and over for a course, instead of having more words put in and something that rhymes with it? They just keep saying the same words over and over, and that kind of just gets on my nerves after a while. But you mentioned, Wayne, about seeing that Matter of Life and Death tour, and I did as well. I remember I went up to Pennsylvania and saw it, and I think Bullet for My Valentine was the support band, and nobody liked them. And when you go to a concert and you have a few beers, you got to go to the restroom, so you usually wait till like the drum solo or something comes up, or when they say, here's one from our new album, and everybody goes to the restroom. Well, and there's always a line. So whenever, it didn't matter when you went to the restroom during this performance, there was always a line, and people were just complaining, standing in line like, God, aren't they going to play any classics at all? Because they're just playing the whole new record. Then, of course, they came back at the end, I think, played
and they did, yeah. And then the place erupted once they started playing the old stuff. The place erupted, but everybody was asleep.
Erupted, but it was only like 3 songs. Yeah,
it was only 3 songs.
Yeah, I remember.
But the stage production, I got to say, that was a great stage production for that one. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's a good album. It's good listening to it on CD or record or whatever, but not at a concert. It's not a concert album.
What's up with the chat?
A lot of stuff going on here. One person wants to know, Martin, have you ever had Nico's ribs?
No, no. I mean, I don't. You got you probably got to go to Florida to do that, don't you?
Probably, I would think so.
Yeah. No, no. Just been to Florida once on a family trip, and that's the only time. So no.
Martin is from Canada. I live in Florida. You should be asking me that question.
Tell it to whoever asked it. I think it was
Yeah.
Mean Metal Mike. Have you ever had the ribs, Ralph?
I've been there at least 30 times. I have never had ribs as good as that restaurant in Nico. Nico never goes there. He's never there, but every year he has anniversary and they build a big tent outside. And he invited Pat Travers. I saw like a Pat Travers reunion with Nico McBrain. He invited Brooke Owens, Belladonna. Hey, we got some big names down here. And yeah, I always go to those anniversary shows. That's the only time you catch Nico at that place. But my God, and the place is great. I mean, it has all the platinum albums on the wall. It has one of the mummies that was on the Power Slave stage there. The eyes are lit up, and they have a big screen where they play either Iron Maiden or some kind of heavy metal band. And when I go there, you know, it's always filled with families. And it does good business because I've never been there when it was empty. It's always packed, and it's with mom, dad, and little kids that you know they're not Maiden fans. But the ribs are so good. I recommend the ribs. I had the chicken once, and I was like, I'm just gonna stick with the ribs. But
how far do you live from there?
It's about a 45-minute drive, 45 to an hour, depending on traffic. So
yeah, well, that's good to know. It's doing good business, doing better business than Rock and Brews, right?
Yeah, probably. I know. What's it been? I think it's 11 years now that rib joint's been there.
So it sounds like he kind of kills two birds with one stone, and he's turned it into a little bit of a museum of his stuff, right?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's all Maiden stuff, and then in the corner there's a drum, a signed drum thing from the Ronnie James Dio Black Sabbath. It was Tony Iommi, Dio, Vinny Appice, and Geezer. That's the only thing in there that's not Maiden. Everything else, and they sell the Maiden beer, the Trooper, and I know there's another type of beer now. It's great. It's you know, and it's not huge. You know, it's not that big. It looks big on the outside. You walk in, it's not that big, but it's amazing. I love going there. I haven't been there. I haven't been there in about a year, so I'm due to go get some of those. The only time I ever eat ribs is when I go to that place, man. Because
he'll probably be there a lot more often now too, since he's pretty much retired.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I talked to one of the waitresses, and she told me, "Oh, he never comes here. He's only here on the anniversary, though."
Take your phone, do a show from there.
I should. I do have a video of one of the anniversaries. The one with Pat Travers, where Pat Travers was extremely nice. What a nice guy, you know.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was cool to see Nico McBrain and Pat Travers jamming, you know.
Yeah.
It was a really cool day, but yeah. So I want to touch upon one little thing Ralph has said earlier, and I have this philosophy. This is the way I think. It's just my musical taste. I think at 1984 to me is the peak, and then all my gods for up to that point, Ozzy, Maiden, Priest, all this stuff. After that, it just wasn't the same. And after that is when Slayer, Metallica, you know, Sodom, all that stuff was bubbling up. That it's kind of like, I don't know, Ralph, if you were like, you sound like you were like me, you jump ship to the more,
you know,
right?
Oh yeah. You know, to me, what it was too was, think about like the magazines back then. Motley Crue, when they blew up, they were just so freaking huge that I feel like it changed the scene. Like people, like bands, like Dio was starting to spooge his hair up a little bit, and like ugly motherfuckers that couldn't look good in their spandex and stuff. They were doing it. It seemed like every band got Ozzy wearing that goofy ass outfit, you know, with Ultimate Sin. He looked like ridiculous with Metallica coming out with this jeans and t-shirts. They just blew the hell out of them when they opened up for them. And it was just like so many bands, like Judas Priest changed their look. They started getting that goofy look on the turbo. And I mean, it's almost every one of those bands. Wasp, you look at that first Wasp album, they got the metal and the blood and skulls. The next album, when I seen them, they just looked ridiculous. It was so tamed down, and there was no blood. There was nothing exciting, nothing dangerous. Everybody was trying to follow the trend. And that just was like, fuck all this. And the same thing happened with thrash. Thrash thrived for a few years then. And then once Metallica got to a certain level, every band was trying to chase that Metallica fame. And they even like Overkill, all of a sudden their videos, they're wearing all black and they got the big black wristbands. And so many bands, they just all tried to jump on that trend. And they should have just stayed true. The few bands like Slayer that stayed their path, they the ones that I kept following. But a lot of the thrash, because they started jumping on the trend, it opened the doors for death metal for me. And that's when I started following the death metal. And, you know, that even got flooded as a couple of years go on. And all of a sudden, every band sings the same way, and it gets boring. And then you go backwards and you start rediscovering some of the stuff that you didn't like because they look stupid at the time. And, you know, and Maiden kind of kept it cool, but they just looked goofy with some of those outfits from the Seventh Son era and stuff. I just think they look goofy. When I used to see pictures of go to a friend's house and they still had the Twisted Sister pictures up, so I just couldn't look at any of that shit no more. After I got into just the jeans and t-shirt look, that was it. It kind of ruined things for me.
I think it was Theater of Pain. I think
Yeah.
that blew it all up. After
Yeah.
Theater of Pain came out, everybody got glammy because remember, they looked like the crew from the Road Warriors on Shout at the Devil. And then they came out with the pink and glittery. And then every band that we loved back then was doing the same thing and polishing their sound a bit, you know?
Yep.
84 was the peak, man. It was just the peak of all that stuff.
You won't find one album in my collection like that I bought back then after 1984 that was anything that would be considered hair metal. And I even had like all the old hair metal at the time. I had a girlfriend and I gave her all of it. And I kind of regret it because some of that shit was worth good money, you know, but I had like those early Rad albums stuff. But I was embarrassed to have it in my collection. And then years later I ended up getting some of it back, but I gave away a lot of it.
Yeah, I
couldn't let my Thrasher friends see it in my collection. They would have called me a poser, beat me up.
I always loved that hair metal up to 84. Like Dokken, Rat, you know, I love that stuff. I still love that stuff, you know. But yeah, all that after that became all glittery and polished and just not.
Got very radio friendly. They were trying to have radio hits, not just MTV videos, but they were trying to get played on radio, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
remember,
your parents didn't want your parents.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say your parents didn't want you listening to Ozzy and Dio and stuff. It was scary kind of music in the early 80s. By the time 85 came and they're wearing dresses and spooged up hair and whatever, it wasn't scary no more. It was just ridiculous, you know. So
and then
they weren't crying.
You had Slayer doing Altar of Sacrifice and stuff like that. That's what just moved me.
That was scary heavy metal again.
At one point, though, Slayer started wearing the jams at one point, though, and freaking football jerseys. And then a lot of my friends were just like, yeah, this is getting stupid now. Then we want to go back to the crazy spikes and satanic imagery, the scary, dangerous shit that, you know, he's supposed to be afraid of and stuff. But
I was so intrigued by the whole satanic shit. And my parents are religious, but they were clueless. They didn't really look into my shit. So I got to on everything, like, you know, black metal, the album Black Metal and Celtic Frost, all that. And even if they saw it, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't. They don't figure me to be satanic, which I'm not. You know, I like some Christian. I like Barren Cross. I like some Striper. I like some of that stuff too. But and for some reason, that stuff wasn't as cool. Evil is better, man. Evil to me is awesome. It's more intriguing, even though I can get into Barren Cross. I'd rather listen to Slayer, you know what I'm saying? It's just the more
Yeah.
evil.
My room was so covered with every little part of my room was covered with evil shit all the way. So when my parents came in, they couldn't focus on anything because it was a zillion things to look at. So they just come and shake their head and walk back out. You know, if they ever sat there and looked through my albums, then I would probably lost a bunch of them. Which my mom did
feel like the
throw
mother
away a
in
lot of my
trick or treat.
t-shirts. Yeah, my mom threw away a ton of my fucking awesome shirts though. Whenever she seen, because she would do the laundry. I was stupid. I wasn't doing my own laundry. I should have did my own laundry. Because man, I had shirts that I wore one time and was like, what the fuck? Where did this shirt go? I forget that I even bought it, and you just never seen them again.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. That's just funny. It made me think about, about all the parents that hated Ozzy Osbourne back in the day when he looked like one of the Golden Girls, but
Yeah.
during that Ultimate Sin. But then when he became a TV star on the Osbournes, they think,
Yeah.
oh, that little guy, that Ozzy guy, he's so funny.
I just wanted to stick up for hair metal at the end because, I just remember experiencing all of that hair metal. I had different from you, Count. It's almost like all through it, there was an adequate amount of pretty decent albums. It didn't have it had a bit of a dip from maybe 85 to 87, 88. But then what happened was it just seemed like, I did a podcast episode, for example, called Go to Vancouver and Try Harder, where everybody kind of like started improving, raising their game when grunge came around, right? So Motley Crue got better for Dr. Feelgood, and then better again for Motley Crue. And you had Love Hate, you had Badlands, Mr. Big came along, and they kind of got better over 2 or 3.
Well, they all toned down the look too. They all toned down the
exactly.
look. They weren't all wearing
They
lipstick.
They just realized they had to do a better job and be less like misogynistic and just materialistic and glammy and stupid and big choruses and stuff and just everything about partying. Extreme came along, right? You got Porno Graffiti, and then you got 3 sides to every story. So everybody got every Kiss, Revenge is way better, I think, than every one of those albums, all the way back to like Animalize or whatever. Like Revenge was just a good, solid, and that's almost like the perfect example where it's like those guys are realizing we got to, if we're even going to stick with this music at all, this same kind of music, we got to turn in the very best version of it possible. And I think Revenge was kind of like that. So yeah, there was always, I didn't find myself abandoning all the hair metal stuff. It's like just having just all the good stuff from all the heavy genres all along the way at that point.
And even before the grunge thing hit, I think something that changed things as well. The whole dynamic was Guns N' Roses, because they came out. I mean, yeah, Axl had his hair all teased up in the first video, but after that, you just saw them, and they were like jeans and t-shirts and leather pants and stuff, and that with Motley's look during Good Girls with the jeans and leather, they went back to the biker look, and I think you started seeing the band start dropping the glam, and they started getting more street level, man. They look more like jeans and t-shirts and stuff, cowboy boots and stuff, and then next thing you know, they're all wearing combat boots and stuff, almost right at the same time.
And they also turn in 2 77-minute albums too in 1991.
Yeah.
So they're another example of like this stuff's getting pretty good.
I hated that. I like short albums.
Me too. I agree.
Yeah.
I like 45, 50 minutes tops.
I got to bring up a funny story about Guns N' Roses. When that album took off, which was like a year later, it blew up. We owned a record store, me and my brother, and I'm in trendy Miami, Flagler. I mean, everybody here is into Latin music. Nobody's into rock music. This one guy comes in, and he's buying Latin stuff, and then he goes, "Hey, there's this rock band with the singer with tattoos," and I was like, "Oh, Guns N' Roses," Now imagine if somebody walks in a record store today and says, "Well, that band with the singer with tattoos?" I mean, it was like everybody has tattoos. You know what I mean? But
yeah. Motley and Guns were the first bands you saw with like a lot of tattoos, like sleeves, and then everybody started doing it.
Ozzy and Bon Scott were the first 2 that I remember.
But they had just various ones, Motley and GNR had them all, complete sleeves, man.
I think GNR.
Iron Maiden had a lot of tattoos too. I remember back seeing around Power Slave, you'd see Dave and Steve had gotten them on their forearms,
Yeah, but yeah, the thing is with Axl Rose, it was like one here, one here, one here. It was like where even Motley Crue there wasn't full sleeves yet. It wasn't until like Dr. Feelgood after Axl.
Right.
And Henry Rollins was a big one too. That a lot of people started like getting covered after Henry Rollins started blowing up.
Yep, everybody.
Yeah, you remember you could buy the T-shirt of Ozzy Osbourne's tattoos one time. You could just long sleeve shirt. I thought that was pretty funny.
I seen a Rollins shirt that was like that too. It had his sleeve. It was a
With
white
the
shirt
sun
with
on the back.
tattoos.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Killer. Yeah. But yeah, the whole thing just kind of changed. The whole atmosphere of everything just changed. But Maiden kind of were able to when they were doing like smaller venues here, they were still huge in Europe and overseas and in South America and stuff. They've always been huge, and it just seemed like their popularity kind of waned in the US for a few years, but then it all came back.
Yeah, but Maiden can't do a full-blown American tour. They can't tour all America where they can fill stadiums in Central America. And here, if they do a tour, it's like just the main cities. They barely come down here, and Nico lives here,
Yeah.
But it ain't like the old days. But they if they were to tour the whole state, they'd have to play smaller venues, which I don't think they want to do that anymore.
I just remember seeing when Blaze was in the band, and there was a live video I had of them playing, I think in Chile, and it was a massive amount of people there. Now you probably remember the show, the one where somebody kept spitting on Blaze from the front, and then the whole band was ready to fight some dude in the front row.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I mean, that was a massive size crowd they were playing in. And here they were doing clubs. I remember they played Hammerjacks in Baltimore. When Blaze was in the band.
Here when Blaze was in the band, they headlined Revolution, this club called Revolution. Who also headlined Revolution? My band. That's how.
Oh shit!
So,
wow.
It's a double. It's as a balcony type thing. The whole upper section was completely empty. And it was an amazing show though. Somebody bootlegged it. I'm sure it's on YouTube. It was just awesome, So
I regret not seeing them on that tour because they played a small club near me, and somebody I know stuck around afterwards, and they got to meet Steve Harris for a second or two. So it would have been worth going just to try to meet him, and probably would have been the only chance to like met some of them guys.
Yeah, when Steve Harris played down here and I didn't go, which I regret, with the British Lions, is that the name of it?
Yeah, British Lion.
He met everybody. Everybody that was there, he signed, took pictures. And now, and that's the same venue, Revolution. Bruce Dickinson's playing here now at the Revolution. Mm-hmm. So maybe he'll hang out and sign over.
Yeah. Back when Bruce had that Accident of Birth album, he played in North Carolina. I saw him in North Carolina, and then we went and saw him in Virginia a few days later. And I mean, he just hung out, man. After the show, he was out in the parking lot meeting all the fans, and he and Adrian both signing autographs and stuff. And we went to Virginia. We got to go to sound check, and we're hanging out during sound check and stuff. And I mean, they were just super cool guys. I mean, because like I said, that was like 1997, 98,
Awesome.
I met Bruce on a book tour for this with book. He signed it. I got a picture with him. And it was funny because I was wearing a parking lot T-shirt from Book of Souls tour, and I just wasn't thinking about it. I was like, just grabbed a Maiden shirt before I left, and I wasn't thinking, can I always get the parking lot shirts because it's like $10 or $20 compared to the $50 shirts inside in Brooklyn. So, and I know he wanted to say something, but there was like a big line. He like pointed at my shirt, and he was about to say something, and then he just like went about his shit,
That's a bootleg.
I was really impressed with the last Bruce album. Did you like it, Martin?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great, and I got to interview Bruce for it and Roy Z for it, and it was cool just getting the whole story of it. Yeah, I thought he did an amazing job, and I love the fact that it's not just blazing heavy metal all the way through. There's a lot of pretty mellow stuff on there, which is pretty cool, beautifully put together. great production. I think I always say that he's in his old age when he hangs it all up, secretly I think he's going to realize some of the greatest music he ever did was the solo music and over and above most of the Maiden music.
Oh yeah,
He does great stuff with Roy Z. Always gets the best out of him, man.
I thought Accident of Birth, Chemical Wedding, and this last album better than anything Maiden's done since Power Slave, I think.
Yeah, Chemical Wedding is better than anything in a long time for Maiden.
Just don't watch that movie. They made a movie about
Yeah.
That movie's horrible.
Yeah. It was very, very but yeah, he had some good stuff, some good solo stuff. Adrian Smith, I recently did a track by track of ASAP. You guys ever heard that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like very poppy, but some of those songs that I actually really liked, and I never heard it before, but you can tell he was dying to go into a more pop direction, because one of the B-sides for Iron Man was a song called Reach Out.
Yeah.
I think he sang, right? Didn't he sing on
Yeah,
Reach Out?
he did. I like that song. It's cool.
And it's totally what ASAP was, but he recently said in an interview he was miserable after he left Maiden and realized he was missing everything. But at the time, he needed a change.
Did you hear
Anybody
the
read
Psycho
his book?
Motel?
Huh?
Yeah, I started this. A lot about fishing and stuff in it. I was kind of skipping through it. Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
Did you hear his Psycho Motel records, Martin?
Yeah, those are pretty good. I mean, they
That
were
first
well
one,
together.
the very first one was very Zeppelin-like. I really liked that one. That was very, very good.
Yeah.
And
it reminds you of Rob Halford doing Fight and stuff, right? I mean, it's the same kind of thing going on.
I'm enjoying what Adrian's doing with Richie Kotzen. I like that stuff. It's really good. Yeah. We listen to it at work all the time.
Yeah. Cool.
It's good stuff. Yeah, those guys keep busy. I mean, I thought the British Lion album was pretty good. I mean, I enjoyed the show when we saw him live, but I think Bruce's solo stuff is the best out of all of the solo projects for sure.
Yeah.
So
what's the story? Do you think they're going to have another album, or soon, or ever, or what do you think?
One more. They got to have at least one more.
Yeah,
and whether Nico is going to be on it or not, I don't. He's supposed to be, but
I wonder if Nico would do it. I forgot I had this. I didn't share. This is I bought this at the Rock and Roll Ribs, which is barbecue sauce, and there's Nico as Eddie. This is, I think, about like 6 years old. This must taste horrible by now.
It's fermented. It's fermented now.
Does hot sauce have a shelf life?
I don't, if it's in a bottle, it should be all right. When was the date on it?
I know I bought this well over 5 years ago. A long time, because I'm a collector. It doesn't have a date on here. No date.
Try it. What could happen?
Yeah, you're just gonna get sick. Yeah.
Here's another Martin Popoff Iron Maiden book, a related book with the Derek Riggs book. And I don't know if I should show. I'm sure I showed this at one point or another, but Derek Riggs drew a drawing on it, and then I told him I was going to be meeting Martin, and he left a little square, and it says Martin can sign here. He wanted him to only have a little spot to sign it. And
nice.
Yeah, I've got that one too, and he signed mine. Yep, that's cool. Yeah.
And
that was a fun project. I went down with John.
Like 29 books.
Nice.
29 books of Martin's books a year. Big stuff.
Thank you. Very cool. Yeah, we saw Derek. We saw that painting in progress when we went down and visited Derek in York, PA. That's when he was living there, and then he moved out west to the desert because he needed the dry air for his health. But that story or that painting, John, who was kind of putting up the money to publish the book, because it was a self-published book of Derek's, kind of Derek and me together sort of thing. And John was doing it, but I guess the deal was that Derek had to paint this painting for John, and John would own it. And that's what they did. And we watched them paint it while we were down there. It was pretty cool. And then lo and behold, Maiden's using it as that massive backdrop and stuff, right? So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you interviewed him for the book?
Yeah, we were there for 3 or 4 days doing a lot of interviews. And then I think I even went back and did a few more on the phone once we went back, but it was cool. We hung out, went for dinner and all that stuff. It was fun.
He seems a little wacky, like he laughs a lot.
He's a pretty regular dude. He's a pretty regular dude, just a regular English dude. And the other cool thing about that book is that there were hard covers as well as the soft covers. And the hard covers, I think there were 1,500 hard covers, and they sold pretty fast. But the 15,000 soft covers stuck around for years. And I don't know. He may even still have them at his site, because people ask me all the time where to get one. I just say, "I'll go check with Derek," because I even just a few years ago, he definitely was still selling them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got this signed last year, and when I bring him the book, the binding was like kind of screwed up, and the pages were kind of like falling out.
Mhm.
As soon as he grabbed the book, he goes, we got another one of these, and he took it and he threw it behind him, and his wife or whatever gave me a brand new one.
Okay.
And I was like, and I didn't have to pay
Very
for it. And
nice.
he was selling the book for like $80. And I was
Nice.
like, that's weird. And then Nick Franco from Sea of Tranquility was with me and Scow. And he just threw it like it was going to go in the garbage. And they wanted to buy the book, but it was like $80. They didn't really have the money on them at the time. So I said, hey, can I get that book back if you're just going to throw it away? My friend really wants it, but can't afford it. And he goes, okay, but I'm not giving him another one. Like if he got that signed, he wasn't going to give it to. He go, no, he just wants to have it. And he go, okay. And then Nick ended up getting a free book out of it.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool.
Did Nick get it signed? Did Nick get that one signed?
No, he should have went
Oh.
around the back and gave it to some little kid and said, hey, bring this up like you just walked in there. Because he probably would have threw it back and then got another new one, you know.
Here's a copy of the hardcover one. So that's the
Nice.
Yeah.
Killer.
It's
I never saw it.
exactly the same. Yeah.
Killer.
Those are still available, Martin? Or yeah.
Well, not the hardcover. And then this book of mine has a curious history, right? 2 Minutes to Midnight and Iron Maiden Day by Day.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So this was fun. It was just a timeline and quotes kind of book, and also full color throughout. But it was out in print for, however long it was out in print, and then it was out of print. And that was it. So this has been out of print for years and years now.
Yeah. Cool book. Yeah, I like the timeline of that. That's really cool.
All right,
a Ozzy one just like it and a Motley Crue one just like it for those guys.
Yeah, I got the Ozzy.
Did you read the Paul Diano book, Martin?
Yes. Yeah. Years and years ago. Very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about tall tales.
Crazy stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to interview him just 2 or 3 months before he died. It was, I think, July, and then he died a few months later. It was, too bad. Just when he got signed to, Tim's label, Brave Words Records, right?
Yeah, Wayne and I bought the CD where he autographed the plastic that's on the CD.
Oh, yeah.
You can't open it.
I can't open it.
Yeah.
Oh, not opening it.
All right, well, before we end the show, I'm going to go around the horn, and everybody's going to tell me what you think is the greatest Iron Maiden album. And I'll start with Ralphus.
Well, I love Killers. Like, I want to say Killers, but then I want to say my favorite Bruce Dickinson one is Peace of Mind. I just love the way it sounds. I think it's just amazing. So yeah, I got them two. It's like Paul Diano and I know it's like cheating, but yeah, I think Peace of Mind is just something about that. Being 13 years old, and that was like the album of the year for me at the time. And I'll go with Peace of Mind.
Forever, like most people, I thought Quest for Fire was like a really stupid song, and now I absolutely love it. I think it's so metal in that middle section. It makes up for, when the dinosaurs walk the earth stuff. Which, I love Peace of Mind. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd go a little more to Power Slave, but I love Peace of Mind was my first Maiden tour, you know?
The first five are so incredible.
Yeah.
It's one of the best 5 album runs. I think the first 6 Sabbath albums is like one of the only things that beat it as far as just so perfect of albums for that kind of a run.
Oh, yeah. Martin, if you were to pick your favorite Maiden album, which one would it be?
First, I'd say I have 2 runs that I like even better than both those runs, and that's Queen 73 to 78 and Priest 76 to 79. But when it comes to the Maiden albums, you could almost take everything Count said word for word for word for word, because I also agonize between Killers and Peace of Mind. So, but I will go with Peace of Mind. Literally everything he said was exactly what I could have said. Yeah.
Wayne?
Somewhere in Time. I love it. I love the album cover. It's one of the best Maiden album covers. The music is just awesome. I love the keyboard things that they had in there. Even though I know a lot of people don't like that, but there's not one bad song off of that album.
And you were a long distance runner back in high school, right?
That's
what you like.
Yep.
He was lonely.
Yep.
You mean after your hospital stay, you didn't realize how horrible Heaven Can Wait was?
I love that song. That's not a bad song.
Yes, it is. It's just my stupid
That's
opinion.
when they started repeating the same line over.
I feel like I'm having deja vu here.
It always upset me because I saw every Maiden tour. When they did Somewhere in Time, they played Heaven Can Wait. I saw Seven Son, they did Heaven Can Wait. I saw Fear of the Dark, Heaven Can Wait. I saw them with Blaze and they did Heaven Can Wait. I was like, you stop playing this damn song?
The one song I want them to stop playing is Can I Play with Madness? That song I hate.
That song horrified me because that was the first single. That was
that song.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, what is this?
No good.
Yeah, that's just terrible. Tony, what be
The
your
Number of the Beast?
Number of the Beast? You know, also not only his favorite Maiden album, but his favorite album of all time is Number of the Beast. Is Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records.
That's right. Yeah.
He says it's the greatest. For me, it's the first one. It was Killers for a long time, but there's just something so special. I like the production, which the band hates, and a lot of people hate, but I like that chainsaw sound in the middle of Running Free.
Oh yeah,
I love that album. I love
that opening
it's
riff
awesome.
to Prowler. I mean, it just sounds like a chainsaw riff. You know, it's great.
That's probably my second favorite, the debut.
Yeah.
Killers would be my number 2.
Yeah, Killers would be my number 2, and as far, all right. How about favorite Maiden album cover? I'll go first on this one. It's definitely Killers, but man, close second for me would be actually Made in Japan. I love that Samurai Eddie, man.
That's cool. I like
How about the original cover with the beheaded Paul Diano? That would have been.
And then
I like that Purgatory EP, the 7-inch. I love that Eddie and the Devil split.
That is cool.
How about?
I think Senjutsu looks amazing.
It does.
That's
Actually,
a great cover.
I think that's the better album cover of the later stuff.
The problem with that and Book of Souls album cover though is you don't got all the little things going on. Like the Senjutsu, there should have been like tons of dead people chopped up in the background with people you recognize.
Right.
And,
you need the background.
Yeah, there's no little thousands things like in Power Slave and Somewhere in Time. In Number of the Beast too, with all the little demons and monsters and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they did it twice on 2 albums. You know, it's like, all right, you already did that, and you did it again. Like, you know, I need background. I need to see what's going on. I need to see where he is. Why is he a samurai? What's going on there? And they didn't get, but it's all in the booklet, which is weird, but whatever.
I heard the next album he's going to be a pizza maker and he's going to be throwing a pizza and it's going to be all this little different things. You got to try to spot all the different added things on the toppings of the pizza.
The pepperonis are going to be like, you know, all the band members and stuff.
Little faces, yeah.
Little pieces of pineapple.
Yeah.
Wayne, you got a favorite album cover?
I already said it. Somewhere in Time.
Oh, that's right. Tony.
I got to go with Number of the Beast for the album cover as well. I mean, and it's just like what Ralph has said, all the little nooks and crannies in there, all the little stuff that's going on in the background and everything is great.
I think the
you know, they when they did the repress of that a few years back, I don't think they could find the original art, and it's like too dark.
Yeah.
And they did some alterations to it a little bit and stuff, just like they redid the first album cover as well, with
I
some
didn't like
computer
that.
art.
I didn't
Yeah, I
like
didn't like
that.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was just too dark and weird looking.
It seems like I remember hearing something about the original cover wasn't supposed to be so green looking, but it just came out like that. But I think that adds to it. I like that.
That's all in the Derek Briggs book, all the
Yeah.
stories about that and how it like he was working one place where it was like really hot and it was like the shit wasn't drying in time and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
A
Yeah.
lot of cool stories. I love that book, not just for the great artwork, but all the little stories that went behind and why he drew things the way he did and stuff. So that was a really cool book to read.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff.
I think the album cover with the most little nooks and crannies is Wayne's favorite.
There is a lot of cool. They paid homage to
Easter-
so much
Easter
stuff,
eggs.
So much stuff.
I
It's-
mean,
there's a lot.
I mentioned Hammerjack's bar a while ago. They even got a Hammerjack's listed in there. It's really cool.
The clock says 2 minutes to midnight.
Yeah.
7:58.
There's a lot of stuff in
Arms.
Power Slave too. When you got Power Slave blown up really big, you could find there's a lot of little tiny like
believe
messages and shit.
Isn't Indiana Jones was here written somewhere?
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
Yep, that's on there.
That's some crazy stuff. Well, guys, it's been a great episode. Martin, let everybody know where they can order your book.
At martinpopoff.com, but I didn't put any pricing there yet. I want to wait till I see those heavy boxes sitting across the floor so I can mail them right away. So please be patient and get it from me, and I will sign it and send it out from the office here. So the minute they arrive, like, I will put up pricing and people can start ordering it. And so that'll be probably first week of May or so.
Or you can get this one now.
You can get that one right now. There's PayPal buttons, everything there, and I'll gladly send that one out tomorrow or the next day or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Oh, before we leave, how about the chat? I mean, we got any last words on the people watching?
They're all just like talking amongst themselves here. Explain the Phantom.
Someone asked Martin that said they wanted Martin to do a book on Clutch because they know you like Clutch a lot.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I could see doing that, but I almost feel like they probably would do a better job themselves, and they would probably go do it themselves and self-publish it. And you know what I mean? Like, there's certain bands like that. They don't need me, kind of thing. They're just so creative and so good anyways that they would do a really good job. But yeah, that is the kind of band I do play those guys regularly all the time. So.
There's no Manowar books. We need a Manowar book.
Yeah, there was talk about that years ago with the guys, and it never sort of came about. And we know they're all those guys are pretty difficult to deal with, I imagine, right?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a Man-O-Warrior, Martin?
I definitely was. Yeah, definitely around Hail.
I love those early
for
albums.
sure. Sign of the Hammer. Absolutely. I was totally on board with that. And I saw them live. How many? Just twice. But I saw them live in '88 in a small bar in Vancouver. It was incredibly loud. Yeah, actually, it was incredibly loud here in Toronto too, where they played the Opera House. Both actually. The Vancouver place was maybe a 400 capacity, and this was like an 800 capacity, and they played it like it was a massive concert hall, right?
You have something by Manowar hanging up right behind you, right? I usually see something. You might have moved it.
Yeah, we got a fully signed, fully signed Louder Than Hell on a Japanese from Louder Than Hell. Japanese from Burn magazine ad. Yeah.
Nice.
Right on, man. Yeah, we should do a Manowar show one week. Have Mark. I pretty much hung with them, but their last few albums are just a little too pompous, I would say.
Right.
They've always been pompous, but they really raised the bar on the Sons of Odin and stuff like that. A lot of spoken word on those albums.
Too much.
I love Kings of Metal, but Jesus Christ, do we need Grandpa telling a kid a story for like 5 minutes?
Grandpa, tell me a story.
I kind of like that.
5 minutes and goes into a killer song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too big on, but that's all. That's a Manowar show we'll do one week.
Yeah.
So Martin, thank you so much, man. It's always
Yeah, thank you guys.
I don't like
See you, man.
much, so I hit up Martin every 6 months. Hey, come on my show. And he always does, man. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for
Great.
coming on.
And thank you, Ralphus and Wayne and Tony, as always. Next week, come join us on Almost Human, where I have no idea what it's going to be, but it's going to be really good.
It'll be a
Yeah.
show.
That I can promise you. So everybody, any last words from the chat, or just
No, who cares about the chat?
no? Come on, man.
No, they're talking.
Death to false metal.
Yeah, they're talking about. They're just talking amongst themselves. Nothing really.
Well, thank you, all you people that came just to talk amongst yourself. I hope you enjoyed the show. And again, thank you. It's always an honor, Martin. I can't stop saying that, and everybody else. And I'll be hitting Martin up in another 6 months.
All right. All right. Thanks, guys.
Martin.
All right.
Have a good everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Yeah.